What's good, guys? It's Monk here. So today what I wanted to do was do a little track breakdown of Pangu. Pangu is track 15 from my new full-length debut album, Temple of Mungk. That's out now on Deplock. I'll leave links in the video description so you can go and check that out. Pangu, for anyone wondering, is named after a Chinese deity considered to be the first living being and creator of the world. So in the mythology from ancient China, it is said that Pangu emerged from this egg that basically contained the entire universe, and when he was born, his birth released the universe. So pretty sick, and that's supposed to represent within the story of my album. It's when the monk returns home to the Far East, and I wanted all like these epic horns and things going on, like a real homecoming scene of like him coming back from his quest. So obviously the whole album's quite cinematic since it's a concept album and it's telling a story, so that's like a main thing I'm thinking about through a lot of these tracks that I've made for it. Right at the top, we'll go from top to bottom and I can just show you like each thing and what it is and what it's doing. So first of all, vinyl crackle. Pretty subtle sound, don't know if you're going to pick up on it, but I always have a layer of vinyl crackle in every single tune I make. It's just part of what I do. I feel like having some kind of noise there that isn't just silence just really helps to like glue the track together, and just like when there's just silence in a track, I think it just sounds too clean and it's just nice to have some dirt in there. Next up, soundscapes. Throughout the whole album, I made it so every single track bleeds into the next track, and I did this with the soundscapes. So what I mean is, like, when you listen to the whole album through, you can listen to it as one project and not necessarily tell where one track ends and the next begins. So here you can see, like, on this end I have the same soundscape that would have been the end of track 14, and then on this end it's a different soundscape, and that's the soundscape that would have then bled into track 16 and would have been the intro for that tune. I think we're in the sea at this part. Yeah, so you can hear like the coastal sounds there. And then at the end, yeah, you can then hear we're sort of more jungle vibes again for the next track. Here on this, these are just my white noise sweeps, rather than remaking white noise sweeps every time, because that's just long and tedious. I made some a long time ago that I just have sampled, and ever since, like every tune, like I've always got these same white noise samples in there that I made like a year ago or something. Right, so then the next thing to look at is the drums, which are quite standard. I'll play a bit of them for you. So that's a pretty like straightforward 140 grime kind of drum pattern. Only bits of interest to point out here are these perks and these wind stick. These are all things I've recorded in myself. So the shaker sounds are from this rain stick, which was a gift from my girlfriend's mum. She has like a box of miscellaneous instruments that her kids play with. I actually sampled quite a few of them in this track. And then the wind stick is actually this thing. In 2019, I was lucky enough to visit South Africa, and I found he was a guy that ran like a woodwork shop, but specifically music instruments, where like he was making all his own musical instruments and selling them. This was the only thing I could afford at the time. And it's actually made from seaweed. I'm not sure of the exact name for it, but and you could also play like actual tunes with it, but I only got as far to make that sort of that wind sound, which I think is sick anyway. After the drums, we'll then have the bass. Which is a pretty simple 808 pattern. For that I was using Sublab. Who is it that makes it? Future Audio Workshop, Sublab, yeah. This plugin is great for 808s if you haven't heard of it. Like, all the presets are just like straight away, you can just find the kind of 808s you're looking for, and then you have these controls over like your volume filter, pitch drops and things like that. So you have a lot of control, but it's just like most of the time you know, you just load up one of those presets and you're away really. It's very sort of minimal adjustments needed. Then the horn stabs. So that was actually like a single one-shot sample from a Kashmir pack on Splice, I believe. I then stuck it in the quick sampler here, and yeah, I pitched it to C, and yeah, then played the melody on it. Then when we get to all of these instruments, I've got a koto there. That, I think that's one of the obviously got a lot of delays on it, but I think that koto is actually, yeah, it is one of the, if you've got Logic, you should just have this in the sampler. It's one of the like stock preset things. Then I've got Mabira here. I think Mabira is how you say it. Bira. The M might be silent, I'm not sure. But anyway, that sounds like this. And that's actually recorded from this, which is also from my girlfriend's mum's box of music things. Doesn't sound much by itself, but what I did was I just recorded a single note from it, pitched the note to C, and then stuck it in this quick sampler again so I could use my MIDI keyboard to play any of the melodies. That's layered with the koto, which I said is the stock sound from the sampler. Then what I also have, which is more featured in the intro, but it does come in later, again, here where it says, I think that's the same sound, but it might also be this one, which is another one of those. And also the music box track, which I'm not sure if it's the actual name for it. Let me just grab it. This track. Yeah, what you can hear there is actually this, which is another instrument from my girlfriend's mum. So I'm not actually sure what it's called. On the instructions, it just said music box. It seems like a rubbish name for it, but it's really not in tune. But again, that's the really good thing about the quick sampler, because I can just record any note, and then using like the tuner and stuff, I can pitch that note to C, and then you put it in a quick sampler. It's going to map that across a keyboard, and you can then play that sound as you would any other synth or stock instrument. A bit later in down here, I have like a little bit of guitar. Now, I didn't want to go too guitar heavy, but I do play guitar, and I come from a live music background. So through the whole album, because I really wanted it to represent me, like I tried to put more of my musical background in as opposed to like just what I'm doing now. So this is why I've sort of tried to include little bits of guitar, just little riffs and solos. It's fairly discreet, but I'll just play it. Yes, that was just a little bit of guitar. I think I recorded that on my Fender Telecaster, going into directly into my desk. Nothing fancy, just the straight signal. And then I've processed that with Soundtoys Effect Rack, doing some stuff, mostly Decapitator. Got a bit of Crystallizer on there. Yeah, Soundtoys Effect Rack is wicked. I love them plugins. And then there's the pad down at the bottom here. Now the pad sounds like this. Now, I can see there's not a lot on here because I've obviously bounced it to audio and resampled it. I do this a lot with pads, like where I'll stick like a sample that I've already got in the tune, and I'll run it through like a granular synth engine. Sometimes I use, you can actually do it in Alchemy if you just want a stock synth. You can also do it in things like Pigments. I've got this Portal plugin as well is great for doing like granular stuff with loads of presets in there to get you started, and then you have access to all these controls. I think though this pad was actually done with this Spindrift Playground. So yeah, this track I actually did with Spindrift Granular Synthesis. So I used this like outside of Logic as a standalone thing, and you can load whatever music, like audio file in there, and you can just start it granulating, and you've got all these controls, and you record the output. It's quite nice because I like to do something outside of Logic and just sample it and bring it back in. Then another thing I did sort of through the track to try and represent a bit more of my live music background is because I do a key change for the second drop, which isn't all that common in electronic music, but it's something that live musicians will often do. So as we get to, I think around here, yeah, listen to this bit how it crosses over. The key of the tune is in E minor, but when we hit this second drop, we bring, you can see it on the 808, it's probably easiest. If we're looking at here, we're on the E, and then when we get to this second drop, we've bumped it up and we've gone up to B. So listen to what that sounds like. So that's just a nice thing to give the second drop a bit of variation from the first, and like I say, I think that helps me to represent my musical background a bit, doing things like that are sort of less common in the electronic sphere of music. But I'd say that's about it, and that is my track Pangu. It's not like a lot of my tracks are quite like, we've only used 24 channels in the whole of this, and that's probably around average for me. Like, I don't tend to get too complicated with it. I often think that less is more, especially when I do a lot of sample-based stuff. Like this track, I've played a lot of stuff in, and I've recorded a lot of my own stuff for this, but obviously a lot of it I'm like chopping up samples as well, and I always think like you don't need as much going on as opposed to like techie sound design stuff where like people have like 100, 200 channels in a track. I don't think I could actually handle that. It would stress me out. But yeah, hopefully you found this interesting or of any use, like if anyone's producing and like just wanted to look at how I do things. Hopefully that's useful. And yeah, nice one for watching. Yeah, big up.